Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Evelyn here, and today I'm doing Katey Flowers Tarot Obsessed Tarot tag. It's 16 questions, so let's jump straight in. My very first deck. Now I've been looking for it and I just can't find it. My very first deck I bought in Holland, so years and years ago. And it was in one of those cheapy bookstores, and the deck came in a kit, in a little box with a book, and the cards were like really thin. They were in Dutch. It was a pip deck, and the book was like a full colour book, but it didn't give me lots to go on, and yeah, I just couldn't. I bought it because a couple of my friends were into tarot, and I thought, like, oh, this is sort of like a cheapy way to get into, see if it's something that I want to like get into. And I just couldn't. It just didn't. It didn't work for me. It didn't I suppose because it was a pip deck, and I didn't know that you had decks where the pips were like fully illustrated, like fully like a scene that you could read. So yeah, and then my second deck, which is sort of a first, as I suppose, I got this at a car boot over here in the UK, and again I tried, but it just I just couldn't get into it, and the book was just like, it's that thick, but it was just too complicated, and yeah, so yeah, for a first experience that wasn't the best really. Current favourite deck. I said in a previous video that my favourite deck is the Hidden Realms. I love it so much. The cards are just so beautiful. I'm not going to get it out because the book is on top of it. But yeah, it's just it yeah, it sort of, it touches me in a way that I wasn't expecting some cards to touch me. My most used deck, and that can't be a surprise to anyone really, the Everday Witch. I love this deck. I use it a lot for readings that I do on my videos. You know, when we do tags that require cards to be read, this is the deck that I go for because it's one of the decks that I find easy to read. So yeah, Everday Witch. My least used deck. Now, aside from the Rider-Waite, which I don't use at all, and I should really. I keep saying that. I feel guilty for not using it because I do appreciate it. But from the decks that I do use, my least does that make sense? There is some decks that I haven't got round to, or yeah, I just don't feel I'm ready for. But from the decks that I have used, my least used is the World Unknown. I love it, and I love the artwork, and every now and again I will get it out of the box and just like go through the deck, but it's just I just can't read with it, and yeah, it's such a shame, but you know, one of those things, I suppose. How did you learn to read tarot? Now, right, so I got these decks, the one that I talked about, my first deck, the Rider-Waite, and another deck that I'll show you in a another question. I got those sort of like pre my actual starting to study tarot. I probably started it this Christmas. It'll be 3 Christmases ago. That's when I decided I want to own a couple of decks, and I want to start learning to read tarot. And what I got myself was, beside the Joie de Vivre, was the Gilded Tarot, which came with this book. I think it was called, yeah, the Easy Tarot Kit, I think it was called. You can get it on Amazon. It was fairly cheap. And although, and I've said that before as well, this is not a deck that I would now go for, because I really don't like the artwork. What I did like about it is that the suits are colour coordinated, so you can see what suit it is. The images are quite clear, so that's what I liked when I first started it. It's a bit too kitschy for me, to be honest, but maybe I should go back to it like the beginning of next year and see how I get on with it, because, you know, I did spend a good while using this deck like on a daily basis, and really studying it. And like I said, what I liked about it was that it came with the guidebook. Now, I had already started watching lots and lots of tarot videos, so I was familiar with, you can see all the flags that I put on it. So I was already familiar with sort of like the terminology. But yeah, the book, yeah, it was quite good. It comes with a little write-up about the card, and then what it symbolises, and yeah, this really helped me. This book really helped me, and then it comes with how to keep a journal and some spreads, and to start you off. 9-card spread even. Oh, I forgot about this. With 3 cards for past, present and future. So that's quite interesting. The Celtic Cross, of course. And then, oh, this is a 21 card spread. I've never done that before. So yeah, it was. This really helped to sort of start me off proper, and yeah, so that's how I learned. Plus, where I kept my journal, I did daily draws like religiously, and I still do that sometimes. When a card comes up, I will put the keywords first. Like, I write down the title and what deck I'm using, and then I write down the keywords, and then I start writing about how I interpret the card. So at first I did that with the book that came with the deck, or the little white book that came with the deck, and then later on in my, I haven't got my journal to hand, but in my journal I've got some like a cheat sheet with just really like some quick little keywords. So if I'm stuck, I can go and have a look at that. Yeah, so it's repetition and just starting, and having fun with your decks as well. Just shuffling and repeatedly seeing all the images. Sometimes comparing decks. I did that especially when I first started out, because the Joie de Vivre I don't use all that much either, because I find it a bit like, I fell in love with it because I saw, I think it was the Daily Tarot Girl, if I'm correct. I saw her using the deck, and I fell in love with it, and it took me quite a bit of searching to find out what deck it was. And yeah, so but because the imagery is quite busy and the little white book tells a little story about the character in the card, I would have this deck next to it so I could see like, oh yeah, so you know, this is the really busy sort of really illustrated image, and then this is what it's telling me. So yeah, I still do that sometimes. I get like I do that with the Everyday Witch every now and again. If I'm using a deck that I'm not too familiar with, I will have the unfamiliar deck and then have the Everyday Witch next to it to compare the deck and get all the information that way. Yes, so what do I use tarot for? Well, I don't predict the future. I use it for sort of insight in like a psychological tool, I suppose. Insight in situations that I'm in. If I have to make a decision, it helps me to, you know, cut through and really like go, yeah, make a decision. I sometimes read for other people, which is fun. And I just like having fun with my deck, so I make up like little spreads to yeah, just have a little bit of fun. I've been doing some TV spreads every now and then, or TV draws, if you like, where I watch a TV show and then I go, oh, this character, what's happening with them, or what's going on with them, and yeah, I lay out a couple of cards and read their cards. So yeah, and that's just a fun way to practice. What else do I use tarot for? I do sort of like a when I do my daily draw. Sometimes I do it in the morning to give me sort of like an energy to work with. And sometimes I do it in the evening, which is more often, to sort of reflect on my day. And I also have my year ahead spread where I work with one card throughout the month. I am tempted to do sort of two of them, or sort of combine them somehow, because I've seen people do just this Sabbaths, and that's really interesting as well. So one for your sort of wheel of the year, as well as a card for every month. But I'm really enjoying the card every month because it gives you something to focus on. It doesn't mean that that is what, at least to me, it doesn't mean that that is what's going to be happening that month, but it's sort of like the energy that that you'll be working with, or that you'll sort of focus on for that month. How do you read? Intuition or book? I would say still sort of 90% book, but I am getting more and more into reading intuitively. The Everyday Witch has helped tremendously with that. And yeah, it's nice to sort of not feel that with every card you have, like, it's a test that you're doing. Like, do I remember what this card means? And like letting the artwork help you out. So that's really nice. Number 8. Do you use spreads? Yes, I do. Not like every day, because usually when I do a daily draw, it's either 1 or 3 cards. But I do sort of like a past, present, future. I do. Even though like future isn't like predictive, it's difficult because yeah, I don't feel like we can predict the future, because by us talking about the future, you're already changing how things will pan out. So yeah, but I do like sort of the 3 card spread. I've got like a whole list of meanings for each position, because you can think of all kinds of things. And I'm looking at all my decks on the table. But I do like to come up with spreads, as you know. I've done a couple of videos where I do my spreads, and it's just a lot of fun. It's yeah. I also have a 365 spread book that I don't use as often as I thought I was going to do. I will try and use that more often in sort of like the coming year, because it is a lot of fun. And it's just another way to sort of practice. When I read for other people, I come up with a little spread. Usually it's 3 to 4 cards. And I want to sort of expand that a little as well. I really like the idea of what I've seen a Dead Chicky do, and some other people, like a 9-card spread that isn't really a spread, but yeah. They explain it better than I do. But I really like the look of that, and all the information that you get out of those 9 cards. But yeah, I'm working my way up to that. But I do like coming up with like questions for your cards. It's a lot of fun. It's not something I take too serious, but it's fun to come up with, to be creative in that sense, and writing a spread. Do you mix tarot with other systems? I don't really. I have been neglecting my runes severely for the last year, where I've been too focused on, not too focused, but like more focused on tarot. So, and I do want to start to incorporate them, because it is, those two systems I feel can work really well together. So that's something for the future. And I don't use oracle cards, so I don't use them. And I don't read Lenormand, or Le Normand. So, yeah, no, I don't use those. What makes a great deck? Oh, yeah, let's think about that one. Of course, the artwork has to appeal to me, and that could be all kinds of things, because I have such a variation of decks. But I like it when it has like a good vibe, and you get a lot out of the deck, and I can't really explain what that means, because yeah, I've seen some really minimalistic decks that really appeal to me, and even though you can't get all that much out of it. And then I really, like I said, the Everday Witch, where it's practically spelled out for you. I really enjoy that deck. So I don't know. It's just, yeah, it has to appeal to you. You have to get something out of it. And because I feel very much like with all your decks, that I sort of see them as sort of friends. And sometimes you feel like hanging out with that friend, and other times you feel like hanging out with that friend. I don't like really specify like this deck I only use for this, or this deck I only use for that. But some decks are more sort of like soothing, and others are more like, I wouldn't say cutthroat, but you know, like are a bit more clear and don't take any bullshit. So yeah, it all just depends on what mood you're in, I suppose, or what you need at that moment. How important is it to you that a deck sticks to the tarot system? I've got the Wildwood, and I use it for Wheel of the Year, but not as often as I'd like to, and I want to trim it, but I haven't taken the time to do that. But I do like it. And this is a completely different system to, well, not completely, but you know, different enough to not feel like a proper tarot deck to me. Like I said, especially the way I use it. So, and that means that I don't use it for tarot. I don't, all those other things that I described what I use my tarot decks for, I don't use this for that. So, and I don't mind if it's a different system than the Rider-Waite, even though I don't really use any other systems than the Rider-Waite. But yeah, it has, like, for it to be a tarot system, it has to follow a tarot system. Yeah, so it is important. Do you have any backup decks? Nope. Do you have an unusual or unique deck? Now, I don't know if I've shown this before. I've got this one, the Merlin Tarot, and it comes, I think I've showed it, but I haven't done a walkthrough. It comes with a book. It comes with a journal that I haven't used, so it's completely blank. And then it comes, like, the deck is, there we go. The deck is a pip deck. And, yeah. So, I don't really use it. It's, see, there we go, pip. Yep. It's interesting, but yeah, I can't really work with it. And this is a slightly different system, if I'm correct, to sort of even the Marseille. But like I said, I haven't really worked with it. But this was a deck that I picked up when I first moved here, and I thought, ooh, but no. Too difficult. Your current deck crush. That's really difficult because I love all my decks. I don't have a deck that I'm like, ooh. Although Stephen Bright's deck that I've got ordered but still hasn't been shipped yet. I've seen a walkthrough of it on, is it Temperance Tarot? Did a walkthrough, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait for that to come, because even though I won't be able to touch it because it's a Christmas present. But yeah, so I suppose that one. Yeah. Do you read reversals? I don't. Like I said, where I use my spreads, I find that if I have to use a sort of shadow meaning of the card, that will come through anyway, and I don't want to confuse my poor little brain with having to learn reversals as well. And then if you could use one deck, and that is such a difficult one because I love all my decks, and I switch around a lot. But my current sort of, and this might sound strange because where I'm so about the Everyday Witch, I think from the decks I own at the moment, if I could use only one deck, I think I would use the vice versa. Because of the double-sidedness of the cards, there's like, you get double for your money kind of thing. Even though like that it's not completely different, you do get a different outlook on each card. And yeah, it's not quite the reversal, even though some cards I feel you could see as such. But yeah, I think if right now they said like, okay, you can only have one deck. Not forever, I hope. I think I would pick this one, which is so strange because I only got this recently. So yeah, I think that's what I would pick. Yeah. And I'm not, you know, that. And then maybe, like, because others have cheated, Katey cheated as well. Like, if you read for other people, I would pick this deck. I think if I read for other, you know, reading for other people, I would still pick the Everyday Witch. So there, I've got that one as well. Yeah, and that was it. That was the 16 questions. Thank you very much, Katey, for coming up with all these questions. They were a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed watching the couple of VRs that have been already posted. Yeah, and it really makes you sort of like look at your decks again and go, oh yeah, I love this one. So yeah, and watching other people's reply is always dangerous because your wish list keeps growing. But I love watching people talk about their decks and yeah, seeing how passionate they are about the decks they use and their favourites and all that. So thank you very much, Katey. Thank you everyone who's done a VR. If you haven't already and you know you're considering it, please do, because it's a lot of fun. And thank you everyone for watching. I will see you again very soon.